Hello, I'm Rick Harp. This is your APTN News Brief for Thursday, June 24th. 4 weeks, 11 killings. That's what the past month has brought the city of Winnipeg. The latest, the fatal stabbing of a 12-year-old boy. Daryl Stranger now on what may underlie the violence and what some hope can curtail it.
Winnipeg police have responded to numerous murders and violent crime-related calls over the past few weeks. There have been 11 people killed since mid-May, and this month there have been 4 killings in a 5-day period, the latest being a 12-year-old boy who was stabbed during an altercation by a 19-year-old woman. Kelly Gorkoff is the department chair at the University of Winnipeg's Criminal Justice Department. She thinks part of the reason for the rising crime can be attributed to the change in seasons.
Generally speaking, crime increases in the summer months, and so that's just more of a generalization. Sort of across the board, once the weather warms up, there is an increase in all types of crimes.
But Gorkoff says finding a root cause to the violence is complicated, and there are a variety of factors at play.
Violent altercations, we can think about it more situationally. Winnipeg has one of the highest child poverty rates in Canada. We have the lowest minimum wage of any city over 500,000 people. There's a lot of existing marginalization because of things like colonial trauma, and the current situation isn't improving.
Gorkoff added community-based resources could help bring down violence rates. Groups like OPK, they work with Indigenous men who have had involvement with gangs and the criminal justice system, as well as people of all backgrounds and genders in need of assistance.
The message is a lot of our people, we suffer from lateral violence, where a lot of the violence that happens comes from our own people, Indigenous people. And what I want to teach youth is that, lateral empathy, where we have love and we have empathy for our own people. Being a helper, helping our people comes good things.
Henry McKay knows firsthand the support a group like OPK can do, as they helped him, and now he's trying to give back.
Living in poverty, living in the inner city, I was oppressed. So it was kind of like a spark in my mind where I was like, holy crap, I got to work my way out of this. I can't be oppressed anymore. I don't want to be oppressed. Like I said, it's empowering, right? So a lot of the work that we do is it's empowerment.
Despite grassroots organizations being in the community, both McKay and Gorkoff say more resources are needed, like mental health supports and drug-related supports like safe injection sites. Without them, they say violence in the city of Winnipeg will continue to happen. Daryl Stranger, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Meanwhile, in Alberta, the Siksika Nation will soon see some of their own patrolling the community. Policed by the RCMP, they'll be joined next month by a number of peace officers, including 3 Siksika members, trained and paid through the Solicitor General Peace Officer Program of Alberta. Councillor Ruben Breaker says while Siksika has had a good relationship with police, this is a step towards establishing its own force.
With us having peace officers now, they have the ability and authorization to enforce any bylaws that Chief and Council develop.
Time now for the final installment in our series, Stories of Survival, Profiles of Residential School Survivors, a series inspired by the discovery of hundreds of child graves at the former school site near Kamloops, BC. We close with Arnie Narcisse, who attended not 1 but 2 such schools, and as Tina House explains, he's just thankful he's still here to share his story.
Arnie Narcisse, a residential school survivor, wrote this song for the 215 children that were found in Kamloops as a way to honor them. Narcisse, now 68 years old, lives just outside of Merritt, BC. He says he lives a peaceful life and enjoys conducting sweat lodge ceremonies in his yard. He says culture keeps him grounded. And just like all the other survivors APTN has spoken with, life before going to residential school was a good life, and they had everything they needed.
I never knew hunger. I drank milk right from the cow. We had fish all the time. And my grandmother, Mama Han, I called her, had a beautiful garden and flowers all around. I did a lot of running. I was like Forrest Gump. Run everywhere, eh? But it was a good life, and it all changed.
After his great-grandson asked him one day about residential school, He wasn't sure what to say, so he started writing about his experiences and created this book. On the cover is a picture of him fishing along the riverbank with his granny in happier times, just before he got taken away in 1959 when he was just 5 years old. His traditional name is Tonamsha, but after arriving, he was given the name Arnold. He was put onto a train from where he lived just outside of Lillooet, BC, destined for the St. Joseph's Residential School in Williams Lake, BC. It was his first time he ever left home, and he remembers being really excited because his older brothers were already there. But he couldn't have known that excitement would soon turn into a nightmare.
It was a constant state of fear. There was never a moment that I can recall that I felt happy.
At the age of 8 years old, he says he was forced to learn how to fight, and that was a way for him to deal with what was happening all around him.
I fought my way to respect. I had the good fortune of being smart as well.
And like many other survivors' stories, the food they were given at St. Joseph's was inhumane.
I do remember the time that they gave us what was supposed to be pork. It was pig meat that still had hair on it. While they're feeding us this slop, the staff and the supervisors were being fed bacon and eggs and other good food that was delivered to them at the head of the dining area while we watched. So it would come from the kitchen area, go by all us hungry, drooling kids, up to them supervisors, the nuns, and they would sit there like kings and queens. So I learned how to steal horse pellets from the barn to eat.
In 1962, Arnie was then transferred to the Kamloops Indian Residential School, and he didn't leave for the next 8 years.
The only analogy I could come up with is an innocent man sentenced to life in prison for a crime he did not commit. And my only crime was being born an Indian.
Narcisse, now a father and grandfather, says he is heartbroken over the discovery in Kamloops.
It should never have happened. And for it to have happened at all is a crime in itself.
With so many survivors coming forward telling their stories with such courage, unwavering strength, and truth to power, prayers for healing is taking place across the nation as we mourn those that never made it home. Tina House, APTN National News, Merritt.
And with that intense response stirred up by that grisly discovery at Kamloops, there are growing calls to cancel this year's Canada Day celebrations. Calls that have resonated at the federal level, prompting these comments by Indigenous Services Minister Mark Miller.
I plan to spend some time with Indigenous peoples on Canada Day. There are many Canadians that want to celebrate what I believe to be one of the best countries in the world. But for many, that isn't the shared reality. And I think that's the diversity of our country. It is, I think, on reflection, it is in part what makes our country able to look at itself and say, we're not perfect. Indeed, there have been atrocities committed on this land, and to reflect upon that.
That's your APTN News Brief for Thursday, June 24th. I'm Rick Harp.